5, another one crossed him.
It's huge. Oh, he is. He's powering up. Whoa, look at that. Look at that. Woohoo! Whoa.
That's not a
Oh, no. Look at straight down on this guy as far as I can go.
That jet's moving in.
Whoa, look at that.
Huge.
Look at that thing. Oh, it doubled. There it goes. It's doubling. I got him. Check him out, man. He's going. There's the power up. Whoa! I got them both.
Oh, that power up. Yeah. Whoa, that is massive, man.
You getting it, John?
Yeah, I got him. I got that all the way.
I just spilled my coffee.
Well, God, there's so many facets to what I do. I have multiple hats. So I guess I'm a best-selling author, near-death experiencer, contactee, founder of ECETI, which stands for Enlightened Contact with Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Been teaching self-mastery and intersensitivity training and the ambassador training for probably 36 years now. Well, I was raised in the high desert in Apple Valley, California, and there's a lot of activity going back to Otis Carr and Ralph Ring when they're actually building UFOs in the area. But we had a lot of activity as a kid. My dad would pull over on the road and he'd say, "Get out of the car," and we'd get out of the car and he'd point up and there'd be like 5 ships flying over the car. So he came out of New Mexico, so my whole family was involved in that. My grandfather, grandmother were good friends with the sheriffs and the first responders, and so they knew all about that. And my dad actually had a UFO land on the highway, and he was the second car, and it blocked the highway for quite some time in New Mexico. When I was 5 years old, I had bronchial pneumonia, and I was actually dying in the hospital. And they came to my parents several times and told them I wasn't going to live throughout the night. And they said I should get in there. And a woman kept appearing to me, and she was dressed in all blue, and she would stroke my head and talk to me and get me through the night. And then the last night, she gave me this substance, which was white, and it was the consistency of ice cream, and told me to eat it. And I ate it, and it wasn't cold, but it was interesting. I was totally healed after that, and I had wasn't sick, didn't miss a day of school or anything after that. It was amazing. And I realized that around 5 years old, people have this transition where they realize they're not in Kansas anymore. They start realizing where they are, and they are on the Earth, and it's a very dense planet with a lot of psychic turbulence, and it's very hard. And a lot of people make the decision around then whether they're going to stay or go. And that's what I was going through. But she got me through it, and I talked to people later on about it, like all the nurses wore green. And I kept asking for the woman in blue, and they said, there is no woman in blue. And they all wore green. And they said I was hallucinating or whatever. I found out later it was actually Mother Mary. And I want to do a disclaimer. Mother Mary isn't Catholic. She's a universal being, and she's here for all the children. So we need to stop pigeonholing and separating these beings. And so that was the first major experience when I was 5 years old that happened. After the high desert, we moved to Orange County, and I got caught up in social consciousness, and I went through the school system there, went to college. I ended up getting a real estate license. I worked on my brokers and got a contractor's, everything. I was working on developing shopping centers, and I was in commercial real estate. A very materialistic endeavor, you might say. And then I had the drowning. I was out body surfing, and the waves were like 6 to 8 foot waves. In high school, I was captain of the swim team and on the water polo team and all the other stuff. So I thought I was bulletproof and in the water, and I was extremely humbled by these sneaker waves that came in, and they were 25 to 27 foot waves, and this has all been researched and documented. I got slammed by the first wave. There was no water. The first wave, when it came in, it took the water out, and I was swimming to get under it, and the next thing you know, I'm running to get under it because I'm in ankle deep water. And I tried to dive into it, and it swatted me like a fly. It hit me so hard it dislocated my shoulder and knocked the wind out of me, collapsed my diaphragm, and so I was trying to get up out of it. It just kept holding me under, turning me. I didn't know what was up, what was down, anything. And I remember just, go to the light. I mean, the sun's above you, So anyway, so I finally got up out of the first wave, and right when I got up out of the first wave, I couldn't take a breath because it hit me so hard it knocked the wind out of me. And the next wave hit me, and then it held me under forever. By the time the third wave hit me, I was toast. I was done. I had to give up. You have to breathe. Even if you're underwater, you can't. And I remember the water coming in, and then I released and I let go. And then I felt this extreme peace after that. When the struggle stopped, the extreme peace, and then I went through the tunnel that everybody talks about. And I didn't stop. I saw levels where ancestors, relatives, everybody were on, and I kept going towards this golden plane of bliss, this golden white light. And when I hit that golden white light, I was so blissed out, it was beyond imagination. And at that point, I was a light being, but I was surrounded by a greater light and a greater consciousness and energy, and I had a conversation with it. The first thing I asked was, how can I stay? And there's like a telepathic transmission. It's almost like you're talking to yourself. It's hard to explain because you're unique, yet you're one. So you're this unique light being, but you're one with this greater light at the same time in consciousness. The voice came back to me and said, I never told one of my children when to come or go. That's free will. And then the next thing I asked was, how can I earn the right to stay? And it came back to me and said, you cannot earn what is given freely and unconditionally. And so I was waiting. And I just said, how can I serve? I just want to serve because you're so in awe, you're so blissed out, and you're in the presence of this energy, this being that's beyond your imagination. There's no words for it. It wasn't a male, it wasn't a female, it didn't have a beard. It was just pure consciousness and energy. It came back and said, what brings you joy? And I thought about it for a while, and I said, I want to come back and teach people about the true nature of Source. God, Creator, Great Spirit, whatever you want to call it. That it's not a male, it's not a female, it doesn't have a beard. It doesn't have a laptop that's keeping notes on everybody. We do that ourselves, that's written in our own souls. And that it's beyond judgment, it doesn't have an ego, and it's just like the sun, it's just shining on everybody unconditionally. So that was my original intent after the near-death experience, is to come back and teach people about the true nature of Source and what it is. Well, what happened is the last thing I said when I said I want to come back and teach people about the true nature of Source or God, I heard as you wish, and the next thing I know, I was back in my body, and somebody grabbed me by the arm and pulled me out and pulled me up on the beach. And then the next memory I had was I woke up in a pool of water. I remember the guys asked me, are you all right over it? And I said yes, but I wasn't all right. I didn't know why I said yes, I'm all right. I definitely wasn't all right. Where that happened was called Little Corona, which is right next to the Wedge. And the Wedge down in Southern California is known for like a neck breaker. So a lot of people get hammered there by some pretty big waves. So what happened after the near-death experience, I was like returned to what I knew as a child, because as a child I was very sensitive. People would think one thing, feel something else, and say something totally different. It was very confusing. And I was very sensitive as a child. And what happened is I was brought back into that sensitivity I had as a child that was kind of beat out of me through social consciousness in school and everything else. And I realized that I looked around me, and the people I was working with and the environment I was in and everything else was so heavy. It was a very backstabbing environment, people not telling the truth. All they cared about was money, you know, external appearances, and I couldn't function in that world anymore. So I gave away most of my stuff, sold everything, and left and went to Northern California, and I was living in Santa Cruz up in the Redwoods in Northern California. And I was really having problems readjusting because I would look at things and they would go to these little golden balls of light. It would like transform, and then it would come back, and things were going back and forth, and my world was very unstable. It took me a while to adjust back and ground into this world, and it was quite a heavy experience. And I also saw entities around people and feeding off of people. And you know, you go into a bar and you look and you see entities everywhere, and they're waiting to get their hit vicariously through others, you know, through their drinking. You know, when they say you have a monkey on your back, it's pretty accurate. It's just not a monkey, it's an astral being, you know. I saw a lot of that, people that did a lot of drug abuse and things like that. They had multiple entities on them. You know, I started seeing the other planes and dimensions. So there's an old saying, the closer you get to nirvana, the more the demons rear their ugly heads. So the more awakened you are, the more it's like a, you know, the house with the brightest light gets the most moths. You know, that's the way it works. And so it took me a while. I got beat up pretty good, and then I finally realized how to heal. And I learned through the TIC. It's called the Teachings of the Inner Christ. They taught me how to heal unseen negative influences and maintain your self-authority, and a good foundational course. And then after that, I studied with lamas and yogis, and I studied yoga for about 8 years intensely, about 11. And I was initiated by lamas and yogis. One of the lamas I was initiated by gave the name of Rijden Norbu, which means Jewel of Pure Awareness, and I didn't know why he gave me that name. And then now I understand, you know, later on in life I really understand. But he also told me that I would be ushering in a lot of the new energy technologies, new healing technologies, and gave me a lot of information. And at the time, it didn't make sense. And then I had these beings appear into me saying, "You'll be teaching the teachers." And at the time, I go, "What do I have to teach the teachers?" And it didn't make sense until now. And now we have all these teachers and healers and all these people coming to ECETI and becoming initiated and healing their past and wounds and traumas, and so that prophecy has fulfilled itself. And also I have contact and connections with some of the highest technology on the planet right now. I started having dreams and visions while in Santa Cruz of this larger piece of property, and I always wanted to create a healing center where people could live a very spiritual life in harmony with each other and nature, and do a lot of process-oriented therapy and things like that. That was my original goal. And I kept seeing this vision of this huge mountain, a river on the eastern border, and then the little mountain behind it. And I would see the word Little Mountain in the vision, which didn't make sense because there was this massive mountain. And I said, why do they keep focusing on Little Mountain? And until later when I found the place, I'm on Little Mountain Road, actually. So that was why the word's Little Mountain. And originally I began this as a healing center, and to do a lot of process-oriented therapy and spiritual practices, you know, deep meditation techniques, and a lot of process-oriented therapies. Right after I got here, I started having contact with very spiritually and technologically advanced beings that are our ancestors. They're returning, and I had to incorporate that into my spiritual practices. And so the more The more I practiced my spiritual practices, the more the ships appeared to me. Because they said, we don't want you to be looking outside of yourself for the ships. We want you to go within and develop your own telepathic skills, your own, raise your own frequencies so we can have contact. And that's what it's all about. We need to rise to the occasion if we are going to have contact.
I'm straight on this guy as far as I can go.
That jet's moving in.
Whoa, look at that.
Huge.
Look at that thing. Oh, it doubled. There it goes. It's doubling.
Huge.
It's split into two. It's split into two.
Thank you very
Now it has
much.
another one. Whoa. It's doubled. Oh, now it's going back. It's morphing back into...
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's three. It's three.
It is.
No, it's two now.
I see. I can see.
It's totally doing this. Whoa. Whoa. Check it out, man.
So I was having both. I was having the really high contact, and then the other stuff was coming in. And I think that's something we really have to qualify, because we have a saying that just because you're dead doesn't mean you're enlightened, and just because you're an ET doesn't mean you're benevolent. And there are malevolent entities that don't want the benevolent contact to happen. They don't want you to remember who you are and awaken. And they do whatever they can to shut you down, even at an early age. They do this a lot. And I'm seeing that within a lot of the UFO community. Unfortunately, I'm seeing a lot of people saying there are no negative ETs, there's no negative spirits. They don't know what they're talking about when they make these statements. If you go throughout history, you know, you read the Nag Hammadi, you read all the ancient texts, you look on the Egyptian walls, they have all the different levels spelled out. And they have the darker levels, kind of demonic levels, and even some grays and reptilians in there. Then they have the humans that are just doing their everyday thing. Then they have the enlightened humans. Then they have the God beings that figured it out, and then it goes up to the source. So they talk about the different levels. And when I hear people making these statements, there's one of two things. They're either ignorant or they've been taken over by these beings because they were ignorant. Or their egos were too big and they just wanted, you know, they were after the notoriety, the fame, and the money. And actually that's happening throughout society right now. People are selling their souls for fame and money and not realizing how precious that soul is. It's all being exposed right now, because when you do sell your soul, and you take that dark path, it gets darker and darker, and it moves into some very dark rituals and things like that, which is replete throughout power structures, even Hollywood. The first extraterrestrial experience, I would say, was with the Pleiadians, and that happened when I was doing an all-day meditation, and I was sitting in my favorite chair, and then all of a sudden, I started getting this communication coming in. It was very loving, very, very joyous energy. And they started talking to me about humanity and the earth and what we need to do, and we need to shift in consciousness and release the past and start moving forward and, you know, clean up the environment, and just, you know, a very beautiful message. And then I asked them what level are you coming from? And they said, we operate mainly in the 5th and 6th dimension. And then, you know, I talked to them for more, and they said, actually, we're on a ship. And so I thought I was losing it. I go, okay, overactive imagination here, he's losing it. I'm going out, I'm going to go start digging and plant some trees. I had a bunch of fruit trees I was planting. And I didn't even get to the front door. My sister and her friends came up banging on the door. And they go, did you see it? Did you see it? And I said, see what? And they said, there's a huge light ship hovering right over the ranch. And so I had to start incorporating the higher dimensional beings, the ultra-terrestrials, everybody has different names for them, into my spiritual practices and understandings, because it was so obvious what was going on, and it made sense to me. And these ancient cultures, which were our ancestors, continued to evolve. So why wouldn't they be more spiritually and technologically advanced than we are? And it's just pure logic. If they weren't, they'd destroy themselves. Their technology would destroy them. So it just makes common sense. And the more I did the research, when you look into the Vedas and everything else, they talk about the ships, you know, the vehicles of the gods, and some are physical, some are pure energy ships, some are light ships, and some are Merkabahs. They're pure consciousness. And they even talk about the weaponry on the ships and even how to build them. They're mercury drives and things like that. So if you do the research, you'll find out that the highest teachings involve the ultra-dimensionals all the way to the source.
Look at this guy. Check him out. I got him.
I don't have them.
I got him.
I was in front of the clock, too.
I got him. Check him out, man. He's going.
I got them.
You should see the field around this guy.
They showed me a lot of visions. They showed me the San Francisco earthquake. You know, I gave the exact date, the time of it, the magnitude of it, the location of it. And so, and the only thing was off was it was 6.9, which were the first readings, and then they bumped it up after that, but I think to 7.1 or something like that. But they do that for insurance and federal money. You know, they raise the numbers. I saw a lot of things. I saw the fires, the massive fires we just undergone, and I talked about the crazy weather, the changes in the sun, the solar activity, and how that was going to create a major increase in cataclysmic storms and, you know, hurricanes, tornadoes. There's F5 tornadoes now, but, you know, I gave all this information back in 1982, and it's all come to fruition. I really don't want to get into the prophecy business because they hate you. It's like, even after these events happened, people actually blame me and said I created them because I told everybody about them, you know, so I go, thanks for all the power, but, you know, I just had a vision. Well, it's been very well documented. We've done it with Paranormal State came here, and I told them exactly when and where the ships were coming in. You know, I did it with Jimmy Church. I did it with Danny Dyer when he was here. Robbie Williams, the pop star. We have so many people on record where I told them exactly when and where a very large ship would come in and power up and make a nice turn for us, and we have that recorded redundantly.
I believe the second or the third night we were sitting out in the field, and it had been kind of a quiet night, and I was sitting next to James, and he starts laughing and he goes, okay, check the time. I look at my phone and it's 9:48, and he goes, at 9:51 there's going to be a ship that's going to fly right over us and it's going to power up. You watch. And I was like, okay, that's a little crazy, but if you say so. And we kind of forgot about it, and we were just talking, and then all of a sudden people started shooting lasers at the sky and everyone started gasping, and he goes, Kenzie, check the time. And I look at my phone, and sure enough, it is 9:51, and a huge ship flies over and powers up, giving everybody a wonderful show.
He does that a lot, I've noticed. We'll be out watching at Skywatch Field, and he'll say, it's gonna go now. And as soon as he does that, it goes off, especially with the blinkers or when the power-ups.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there it is. It's gonna pop.
I didn't know he was moving.
It's getting bigger.
That is tiny.
There it goes. There it goes. Boom. Got it.
I've also experienced James predict when and where the crafts will appear. And that's a common thing with James as well, is he just goes, they're going to appear at this time, at this location, and sure enough, that's exactly what happens. And it shows the dialogue that James has with these beings, and also that contact is happening here, and it's been happening here for quite some time.
Good eye.
I'm here with James Gilliland.
Awesome.
And James said a craft was going to be here. We knew it was coming today, but it's 5:10.
Yeah, they woke me up at 5:07. I took a short little nap, and they woke me up at 5:07. Got up, came out, and
There it is.
took us a while to find it, but we found it. And it's definitely moving. You see it moving. It's just sitting there.
You know, everybody keeps saying, when are we going to have contact? And I always say, where have you been? You know, we've had contact here for 30-something years. This whole field is kind of crazy. For over 70 years, people are still playing with nuts and bolts and trying to prove they exist or not. I mean, where have we gotten with that? All they've done is proven that they exist. And for 30 years, we've been interacting with them, learning about their culture, their beliefs, what they look like, their technology, everything. And so we keep asking that question, why is this being censored, even within the UFO community? Why won't they go beyond nuts and bolts? These beings are extremely advanced, and you know, they really want to help us out by helping us clean up the environment and bringing these healing technologies in. But there seems to be two factions. It goes back to the days of Atlantis and Lemuria. And you've got the self-serving people that want to use technology to suppress the people, to control and dominate the people. And then you have the Lemurians, who were more of the law of one, and they saw the Creator as omnipresent within all creation, and they helped those less fortunate to rise, to be all they can be, to their highest potential. And those two factions are here today, and you can see them even within the parties. It's amazing within the political parties. But even that's kind of a gray area. There's those that want to bring the power back to the people, and there's those that want to continue to dominate and enslave the people and keep them in abject poverty and sick and with their noses to the grindstone. I see it playing out in the positive this time because we have a lot of help, and we have these advanced beings coming in. I mean, these beings are coming through the sun right now, and these are like 7th through 13th dimensional beings. And we've connected with these beings. Some are called the Laka, they're called the Jasai, the Voltari. They're all these different beings that are coming to help right now. It's kind of a no-brainer where we're going, because we've had the Pleiadians, the Orion Council of Light, the Andromedans, the Arcturians, the Sirians, which are all throughout history. The Sirians are actually lion beings, a lot of them, and humanoid cat, feline beings. They're throughout the galaxy, but they're all coming back right now in this huge planetary liberation process. We have to realize that there's so much inhumanity on the earth because there's a lot of non-human influence. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people in the UFO field that are working with entities that are not human. And some are gray reptilian hybrids, reptilians, serpent beings, things of that nature, and they don't realize what they're working with. And they need to stop and back up and learn how to heal these unseen negative influences and maintain their self-authority and work in alignment with universal law, which is universal peace and brother, sisterly love and individual and freedom and prosperity for everyone. It's seeing the omnipresent Creator in all creation, the sacred circle of life. That's not happening with a lot of these groups. It's all about one person and the fame and it's ego-driven. People don't realize what they're doing is they're giving their power away to an external source, when they should be going within and making their own personal connection with Source and having their own contacts with the multidimensional beings that you meet along the way to your own personal connection. And so if these teachers are not teaching you to go within and maintain your own self-authority and your own power, and then you have to question that. So as far as the skeptics and the debunkers, you might say, the people who are real, that have an open mind, loving heart, pure intent, those are the people that come here. And the people that really want to know are the people that come to ECETI. We have a mountain of evidence. We have the photographs, the videos, 200 witnesses at a time. We use NASA's own guidelines, and we use J-Tracker, Heavens Above, to make sure these are not the satellites or space stations or things like that. Every time they bring the NASA debunker, he tells us we're looking at the space station or the shuttle. Problem with that, the shuttles are grounded. Space stations don't land on Mount Adams, morph into 4 different ships, come back together again, and then take off and have a jet chase them. I'm sorry, it doesn't fit the bill.
I'm straight on this guy as far as I can go.
That jet's moving in.
Whoa, look at that.
Huge.
Look at that thing. Oh, it doubled. There it goes. It's doubling.
Huge.
It's split into 2. It's split into 2.
Thank you very
Now it has
much.
another one. Whoa. It's doubled. Oh, now it's going back. It's morphing back into...
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's 3. It's 3.
It is.
No, it's 2 now.
I see. I can see.
It's totally doing this. Whoa. Whoa.
Ah.
Check it out, man. Now it's a double again.
We've done this redundantly for over 30 years.
Go, Ringo. Yeah! Yeah!
No, yeah! Oh my God!
Yeah, as far as the resistance to getting this information out, we've had just about everything. One thing, these unseen influences that we talk about, the non-human stuff, you've got to really learn how to heal unseen negative influences, and these things are not just physical. They're coming. Most of them are in the fourth dimension, and they're involved. So you need to learn how to, hold your own in there. And on top of that, you have a lot of misuse of technology. So you've got satellite technology, you've got black helicopters, on a regular basis visiting us, and God knows what kind of gear they have on them. There's just so many things going on, so much resistance. And what's really weird is you have to stop and think about it. Why are they wasting all these resources and time and energy when all we're doing is talking about benevolent things, things that will help humanity and the earth? Why is that such a threat? Why are they so against bringing in healing technologies and free energy and things of that nature? And it's mainly because they want to maintain the status quo. Unfortunately, the status quo right now is not sustainable, and it's actually has a deadly ending. And so we have to change. We can't keep doing the same thing we're doing and expect the earth to continue to support us. To truly understand this experience, we have to understand our ancient history, our real history, not the history that we're taught in the schools most likely. But actually, the earth has been colonized many times. The first colonies are now being found underneath the South Pole, basically, the antediluvian races. These are what they call the cone heads. And there's other beings there. There's feline beings, other beings there that were here. At that time, in Gosford Glyphs in Australia, they have the whole history of the earth written in stone. It talks about the ships coming down. It shows the DNA, and it was transferred to a human that was evolving naturally on Earth called the Denisovian man. And then that process continued. Then there were some major cataclysms, and then they started over again. And the second colonization process was the Pleiadians. And they are ancestors of the ancient Lyrians. And so that's the root race. But they came back again and started terraforming the earth. And this actually was in Australia where this happened. And they started terraforming the earth, and they created the two colonies of Atlantis and Lemuria. And so those originated as Pleiadian colonies. Other star nations joined them. And that's why we have this massive genetic soup down here, both plant, animal, and human DNA. And going back to the Denisovian man and that intervention that happened there, the gold, the pharaoh's gold, the breastplates and everything came from Australia. So that gives credence to that. And then there's other history about the pharaohs returning. It's written in stone in Gosford Glyphs. The pharaohs returning to get the technology that they lost because of the fall. They tried to steal it basically, and the elders said, no, you can't take it with you. And one got bitten by a snake and died right there. The other one was shipwrecked. I guess he died in a shipwreck off the coast. So they didn't get the technology. But we're all looking in Africa, but the origins really started in Australia. If you look at Stephen and Evan Strong's work, it's all well documented there. The Earth is like nowhere else. It's this grand experiment with 12 major star nations involved, and then others came later and brought their genetics, again, plant, animal, and human genetics. So we're a big mix, you might say. That is the real history of Earth, and then we went through the floods and everything that people, talk about. Some of that was because of misuse of technology and pole shifts and things. Now we're starting over again. There's so many different races here and such extreme diversity of genetics. The Earth is like this gem, and we need to preserve it. The ancient times when the Anunnaki were here, which means those who came from heaven to earth, basically. These were basically the very tall beings. They had the different type of skulls, and they were interbreeding with humans. And the Anunnaki were what we'd call the bearded gods. Okay, so This next understanding is probably going to upset a few people, but we need to know about it to understand our ancient history. But the Anunnaki were known as the bearded gods, and each religion has a bearded god attached to it, an image of a bearded god. And it's how that being interacted with that civilization at the time is where we got our image of God. Some were very loving, and they're all loving, all forgiving. They're very advanced beings, and some were evolved tyrants. Even our own Bible, the Old Testament, has this genocidal maniac, this jealous, wrathful tyrant God. And then the New Covenant, when Jesus comes in, he talks about an all forgiving, all loving God. And that's because they're two different beings. So what's happening on Earth right now is the Earth is on the outermost corner of the Milky Way. It's out in the boondocks. And it's just been left alone to do its thing and evolve, without intervention. Unfortunately, there is a prime directive that says, you cannot intervene, and unfortunately the dark ones, the negative ones, have intervened on a great scale. So there's all these great wars in Orion and other systems where they did battles with the reptilians and greys and other beings, and they were finally victorious. They finally cleaned that up. Now a lot of that spilled over into Earth. A lot of those beings came to Earth, and so we've been under reptilian or draconian rule since the days of the Anunnaki, because Marduk actually made a pact with the reptilian beings for total supremacy of the earth and went against his own people. And so ever since then, we've had this draconian law going on, and with the fallen Anunnaki, and there's other beings involved in it too. And now there's a grand cleanup because the benevolent beings are returning, and they're coming to assist the Earth in liberating planet Earth and getting these unseen negative influences, the non-human elements. They're cleaning that up so we can be free again to govern ourselves. And again, that's what's happening, what we're seeing through the sun. We're seeing these massive ships coming through the sun, and beings we can't even imagine, with spiritual technologies and changing the consciousness and energy of the planet, changing the grid lines on the planet, cleaning up the mess that was created by the non-human, the fallen ones. And so we're in that process right now. These advanced civilizations, and many of them are our ancestors, they live a very spiritual life in harmony with nature, their environment. They have fuelless energy, they have healing technologies, they can heal through consciousness, and that's what many of them do. That's their life, is they're healers. They heal through consciousness, through hands-on therapy. These beings want for nothing. It's hard for us to comprehend that way of life because we've been living in lack for so long. We've been enslaved through dependency for so long, and this is all a controlled system. And once we break this out, we can break out of this controlled system. When we do, there is no lack. And can you imagine if you have a replicator, you can replicate anything. When you have free energy, transportation needs are done. You can go anywhere. They go throughout the galaxy. They jump dimensions. The whole universe is their playground. Most of them live minimum 1,200 years. Bliji is a woman who's coming back 2 million years from the future, coming back in time, and she's a seventh dimensional Pleiadian, like a master teacher that's coming back to help us right now, and that's one of the beings we work with. All of these beings live according to universal law, which is, again, universal peace, brother, sisterly love, individual freedom, and prosperity for everyone. They realize the Creator is omnipresent within all creation. They're here to serve creation. And they see us as like younger brothers and sisters that need help right now to remember who we are and a better way of living, basically. And that's what they're here for. And they're also here to clean up the non-human elements that have intervened in a negative way on Earth for quite some time, and to give us a chance at that freedom. Some of the beings we've been working with we've been working with the masters. You know, we have Yeshua ben Joseph, which is his real name. Jesus is his real name. Actually, the Greeks gave him the name Jesus, which means son of Zeus. But we've got Mary has appeared here. We have photographs of them. Babaji has appeared here quite a bit. Kuan Yin, we have photographs of them and other beings that most people don't know about that are very advanced beings in the Ascended Master realm. We have the Pleiadians come here on a regular basis. We have a long list of Pleiadians we've been dealing with, but Legia is one I've talked about. We have the Orion Council of Light that has been coming here, and they went through the wars, and they're here now to help us. They're ambassadors, and they're coming in to help us, and they're usually six-dimensional beings. We also have the Andromedans, the Arcturians have been coming in. Andromedans are mythologically known as archangels. They're 8 to 10 foot tall light beings with magnetized light bodies, and they have huge energy bands around, like a magnet around their back that come out around them. And when they come in to talk to you, to work with you, they feather back and they look like wings. But they don't really flap their wings, they just appear wherever they want to appear. They don't need a ship. They can go wherever they want. And now we have these other beings. We have the benevolent Anunnaki that are returning, that are highly evolved beings. They're on the benevolent side. They're not reptilians. The Anunnaki are the bearded gods. They're not the reptilians. The reptilians are a different group. But they did do a pact with the reptilians in the ancient past, and that's why we've been screwed for so long. As I said before, the Jasai are coming in now, and along with the benevolent Anunnaki, the benevolent Anunnaki are bringing in the ancient Syrians, which are lion beings. And in India, they called them Narsringa or Narissa or things like that. These are feline beings that are on the good side, you might say. They're coming in, bringing those in. And the Jasai, the Voltari, these Laka, which are a collective, these other beings are coming up to the 13th dimension, and they're coming in to assist. And I know the other ones that have been working here for a long time have been waiting for these ones to come. And they're here now, so we're going to be going through some big changes. And what you're going to see, basically, what people are going to see on this level, you're going to see extreme changes in your political structure, in your economic structure, and everything else, because these other influences are going to be removed. And so, that's, what you're seeing on this level is the white hats versus the dark hats. And that's all being inspired, divinely inspired by these higher dimensional beings that are coming in now. We've had so many researchers that are of noble virtue, you might say, or they have a high level of integrity that have come up here, and they've seen the ships and documented it. And, we have triple PhD Boeing engineers, Lockheed Skunk Works people, NASA people have been up here. The NASA people can't talk about it because they lose their job and their pensions. But we've had just about everybody come up here and check it out, and they know it's for real. We've had Air Force base commanders, pilots, air traffic controllers, and they said, this is nothing, not ours. These aren't ours. So, anyway, so we know. Just because the preponderance of evidence that's there, we have like pink ships, orange ships, green ships, blue ships, giant cylinder ships, triangle ships, pyramid ships, everything. At what point do you say something's going on here? And it's not military. We don't have that kind of arsenal. The bottom line is there's so much evidence and so many eyewitnesses, and I think we need to go beyond, is this real? Is this happening? And just get back into why are they here? How can they help us to evolve? How can they help clean up the environment? So why not go to the next step? And in the interest of national security, you'd think we'd want to align with the benevolent ones because they're the ones with the real technology. It makes no sense to be shooting at them and chasing them and firing on them. it's a no-brainer because there's nothing we can do about them. So we should be talking to them and making alliances with them. And we have, in many cases. A lot of top political leaders do have their own contacts, and the Pleiadians have been very involved in that.
We had one of the most incredible, and the thing is, this week has been insane. Started here, came up, and it was slightly zigzagging, turned, headed north, came, headed back to the east, and then stopped. Wednesday night was about as dramatic as it gets. We were all out here, including yourself and Peter. A diamond-shaped emerald craft came up over the trees right here. It came up, lit up, boom, nearly like atomic, lit up the sky right here. 10 seconds later, it did it a second time, boom. Night one and night two, we lost count, 50, 80 things flying around. That was absolutely amazing. And then we get to Friday, which was this daytime sighting. And I was looking at Jimmy's door over here on the left, on that peak, and I was looking at the top of the mountain, and I had that framed, and I was sitting for about 15 minutes with the tripod, just enjoying Mount Adams. It was just beautiful, and I got everything in focus, and as I'm in the Zen state, right off the right side of the mountain, in the notch at the top, appeared this Coke can, black canister-shaped object. It was black, had a silver circle in the middle of it. I'm gonna guess 100 to 200 feet tall. The mountain's 14 miles away, that's 12,000 feet up, and it popped out and was spinning in this direction like this, and it was lit up perfect with the sun. It was in focus, it was stable. I immediately jumped up from the table and started screaming, photos, videos, go, 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 I lose my mind. And I jump back to make sure it's there. I'm looking in the binoculars, and there it is. I catch up to it. Steve Murillo is sitting next to me, and Steve said, I hadn't told anybody what I saw. I just said, grab your cameras. Steve says, I see it, it's black with a silver spot and it's spinning. That was my confirmation that, okay, we've got, and there was, 50 people out here at that time. So then I'm looking at it, I see it, right? And it's heading out across in this direction. So I'm figuring we've got, at its speed, we've got a 20-minute crack at this thing. I go back to the binoculars, and I went to pick it up, and it's not there, and I'm moving the binoculars over, it's not there. I look up, it's gone. Yeah. The whole sighting lasted about 15 seconds. There was sitting with me 2, 3, 4 people without any vision aid at all, binoculars or anything, that were watching it with their naked eye, that all had the same description of it. Probably the greatest sighting I've had. Right? It was amazing.
My name is Teresa Yanaros of Divine Frequency, and I met James Gilliland at Contact in the Desert 2017. He invited me to the ranch, and I came out a month later, and I went to the ECETI conference 2017, and that was my first time to see lights in the sky. I took a bunch of footage, and we had lots of amazing experiences at the medicine wheel, and I interviewed people about that and the energies here on the land. What's really cool about ECETI is that when you come here, you're going to have an amazing experience. You're going to be in contact with beings in the sky. You might see lights on the mountain. You might run into Bigfoot. All of these things are happening here on this land.
I got to ECETI a few days ago, and as soon as I arrived, it was about 10:30 p.m. Pacific time, and people were just coming in off the Field of Dreams, and they were all pumped up and excited, and I just missed an amazing show. And I was like looking forward to the next day, and I literally was counting down to darkness because I wanted to be able to see what they saw the previous night, and they did not disappoint. When nightfall came, I went out to the Field of Dreams, and the first time since I was a kid I saw UFOs. Not only did I see a UFO, but I saw 13 UFOs in one night out here at ECETI Ranch. I'm telling you, this place is amazing. The energy out here is some type of portal or vortex. I don't know what it is, but they seem to congregate right here. The following night, once again, more UFOs, more sightings. Ships seems to be lighting up and exploding into different colors right before our eyes, visible with the naked eye. This is an amazing place. I mean, if you haven't heard about ECETI Ranch, you've got to come out here. You got to check it out.
Yeah, as for my personal experiences seeing stuff here at this ranch, my first UFO, without a doubt, absolute craft in the sky I've ever seen was at this ranch. The first time I came to this ranch last year, and right when I got here, looked up in the sky, boom, power up. And it's amazing because when you see your first power up, every single satellite, or what you think is a satellite in the sky, you see ever again, you're questioning. Because when I was younger, I always thought they were satellites when you see a little dot flying across the sky, and many of them are probably satellites, but then once you see one of them power up and then phase out, it totally changes your perception of every single thing you see in the sky after that. And not only the power-ups you see in the sky, or the blinkers, or the flashers, or different sky phenomenon, but there are lights on the mountain that you see. And I'll be honest, when I first started seeing the lights on the mountain, I was a little more skeptical as I was when seeing the stuff in the sky, but going through your logical deduction process of lights on the mountain, you know, you realize that at this ranch here, you're 13 miles away from that mountain. So you're not going to see a flashlight or a campfire 13 miles away. And not only that, but the height of the lights, because that mountain, Mount Adams, about 12,000 feet elevation maybe, so the lights that you're seeing on that mountain are probably 8,000 feet up. Nobody lives up there. It's extremely remote. And not only that, but you see those lights all times of year. Now maybe if you were seeing them in May or June during mountain climbing season, okay, there might be some story you could make up for it, but I mean, it's October here now as we're filming this, and we were seeing all kinds of lights on that mountain last night. Nobody is going to be hiking that mountain this time of year. So who knows what those lights are, what kind of beings they might be, or craft, or, you know, and they're flashing. The lights are flashing. They'll go away and they'll start flashing again. So again, just sending messages this way to whoever is here, open and willing to receive them. And that's a very important point there, is that coming to this ranch, if you have an open mind, if you have the intention for a positive experience, you're going to have one. The beings that are here on this planet, above this planet, waiting for us to wake up and initiate that contact, they're waiting. They're waiting for us. The thing is, we have to initiate it. And we have to initiate it in a positive, fearless mindset. If you have fear when you come into it, they're not going to show themselves to you. These beings, they don't want to initiate any kind of fear in humans. They want us to wake up on our own accord and do it in a loving, positive way. So if you come here with the intention of seeing something in the sky, of having some sort of experience, you're going to have one. And every single time I've been here, every single night I've been here, seeing things in the sky, you're pretty much guaranteed to see something, to have some sort of experience when you come here.
Hey friends, Steve Murillo with UPARS Los Angeles, formerly MUFON Los Angeles for 13 years now, UPARS LA, which is the UFO Paranormal Research Society, also on Stellar.com with them. And I'm here at ECETI Ranch. It's August 2018. Just want to talk about my experiences here. First of all, I've been here for 4 days. Every day we've had contact or experiences seeing UFOs in the skies. Most of it's been nighttime UFOs, But Friday afternoon at about 4 p.m., I was sitting next to Jimmy Church. I'm looking down at the picnic table. He hollers out with his binoculars. I look up and I see a black spherical object moving across the mountain you see in the background here. That's Mount Adams, and it was coming up from behind the mountain, so it had to be quite large for me to be able to pick that thing out, and it looked about, to my eye, about that big. And it was doing some kind of a twisty motion, and every now and then the sun would glint off it and it would kind of give off a metallic flash. So it was moving in a linear fashion across the sky. It got to those trees and I kind of lost sight. I was trying to pick it up with binoculars. I lost sight of it, lost track of it as it went behind those trees. So that was a broad daylight sighting. The sky was blue, good contrast, and it was a good, I've been doing this for a long time. I've seen many objects, and that was a good sighting.
I've been coming to the ranch now for a few years, and I think the evidence that James has accumulated here over 30 plus years is unsurpassed in terms of quality, quantity, and the amount of witnesses. You know, all types of crafts, whether it's during the day, at night time, the beings, I've seen the beings fully manifested here. I've seen them in apparition form. I've had my own experiences. I've been taken on board the crafts myself here as well. So it's not just James having these experiences, it's everyone that comes here. It happens in whatever way it needs to for them. So I've taken photos of Pleiadians and video of their craft. I've got videos of beings as well, but I've also taken a photo of a Lyran being that appeared to me while here at the ranch as well. And also, I've filmed crafts leaving the mountain. The way I see is James is the custodian of this area, holding the space for people to come and experience this, awakening that people have, and also holds the space for people to experience it, experience the paranormal, experience the otherworldly beings and the nature spirits and the elementals, all of it. It all comes and happens here at ECETI.
When I came to the ranch, just started getting pictures of orbs and different things. They seem very playful and protective and loving and excited that I'm actually filming them, because when I start filming them, there'll be a few and then they just kind of come in waves and they're playful and they move around, and I think that they want the connection even more than we do. Like, to be seen is exciting for them, and it helps with our ascension, and they're around us all the time.
I have analysed many images and video footage taken by James from around the ECETI ranch location, which have varied immensely from illuminated unidentified flying objects to ground-based extraterrestrial entities and even orbs. Upon receiving the original footage, the source footage from James, I firstly upscaled the footage and the format to 1080p high definition, which greatly enhances the viewing content for retrieving higher quality details of the anomaly and to aid in the analysis process. I also ran the footage through up-to-date filtering software to enlarge and enhance the anomaly itself. Also to retrieve segment frames, which are much easier to analyse, and they are quite often reveal quite fascinating and spectacular results. The footage appeared to show a structured unknown object traversing at vast distance at high velocity under what appeared to be intelligent control, and did not appear to exhibit any known characteristics that would identify it as any known aircraft in use of today.
Yeah, Mount Adams is a very mysterious place. It actually has a doorway that goes into what they call the inner earth, and there's a huge caverns underneath us, and there's whole civilizations up there. There's a lot of different beings there. There's also like a galactic airport there, you might say, as well, and ships are coming in and out of that. We've filmed the ships coming out of the mountain and coming into the mountain. We've had tens of thousands of witnesses that have also seen this. There's so much going on that mountain. There's more energy generating off of that mountain than the pyramids. And we've remote viewed the mountain with several remote viewers. You know, if you're not in the right frame of consciousness, even if you try to remote view it, they'll block that as well. So if you're in the right frame of mind and they're in agreement to it, you know, you have to ask permission and say, will you show me what is right for me to see, or what's right to bring out at this time?
I think the first time that we looked at stuff around Mount Adams was around 2011. There was a video. We just take these videos and then we task the remote viewer on what the cause is. And there was one where it was filmed in 2009, so it's poor footage, but there's a light coming over towards the ranch, and then it started to hover in place, and then it started blinking out and appearing in the field and going back and forth. So we looked at that one, and the viewers were describing, well, first off, they were calling it a Vimana, which I found really interesting because we don't normally get that language in normal UFO type taskings for remote viewers. They talk about anti-gravity and kind of a nuts and bolts type thing. They don't say Vimana, they don't say chariot, but they say that kind of stuff with regard to this.
Yeah.
And what was happening was that we got this biological type. The light is biological. It's a biological type being. It's a being that, and the viewers described this, they described a cat-like humanoid that merges with it and then flies around. And this particular video, what was happening, it was engaged in some kind of process of protecting something. And we see that a lot with the lights around here, is that these beings are in this sort of protective mode. It was actually crushing something. The data was specific on it crushing something. When we get to, for instance, James has got a video where these lights are just popping out of the mountain, you know, like it looks like a big long cigar type ship with lights flashing back and forth on it. Well, that was, when we viewed that, it was not one ship, but it was hundreds coming out, flashing out. And what they were doing was you couldn't see them in the night vision, you couldn't see them once they blinked out, but they were taking off and moving around the mountain in a protective mode and searching and connecting with allies, so to speak. And so, again, you know, we run into data where they're in protective mode. They're guarding something. They're guarding this, what the viewers are calling a gate on the mountain. And, you know, the other thing, so I was out in the field here, and I was just snapping photos with my DSLR, and I got a photo of a winged disc, which is really interesting because that goes back to, I mean, biblical times. They talk about winged discs. Okay, the lights on the mountain. We were looking at what was causing the lights, and the viewers began to describe the lights. When they form, they move in a star, like a three-dimensional star-shaped pattern. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what that was. So I gave it to James, and he says, that's a Merkaba. And that was mind-blowing to me. I'd never come across, I'd heard about it tangentially before, but I never researched it or come across it. But it made perfect sense because, you know, that was the original data we got too, the biological ship. The viewers just didn't describe it as a Merkaba then. And so now we have Merkaba in the mix. So we've got Vimanas, chariots, winged discs, and Merkabas. This is like ancient aliens here.
This is Rob Freeman, and you have this weapon of mass detection here that is just off the scale. I've never seen anything like this. So you've got like $150,000 invested in this, don't you?
This particular one, there's a couple more cameras, and it's about 100. And then there is one more camera that's worth close to 50. So what we got here is, this is thermal, and I'm just showing it here in the screen. And this is this can zoom in also to 4 times, and you can. Oh, you could see a. Yeah. Yeah, you definitely could see a little mountain goat up there with that. Fly face with that.
Yeah, fly. See the fly on the goat. And what else do you have on there? You have.
Yeah, so I've got night vision here. Now this one is 10 times zoom. This one here. And I just use an iPhone to capture the video, and sometimes I'll put a monitor on here as well, or just use the iPhone itself as a monitor. This is also night vision, but more wide angle. And I captured with that one the lights on the mountain last night.
Okay.
This one here is time lapse, so it's a 150 millimeter lens, very bright, so it's like 2.8 f-stop. And last night I did 1 minute exposures, you know, every 1 minute do 1 minute exposures, and they got the whole series of lights. You could see them moving, and I was showing you earlier, and it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and they seem to come, so we know where the hikers go up there. They do take that top ridge. They call it South Climb, but it's actually on the east. And you can see the whole trail they take, and it's on the far east side of the mountain. And we're actually filming the south side of the mountain. And these things seem to be originating on a south face, and then they go up towards close to where the hikers go, and then do a turn. But it's not where the hikers camp. It's not where any known activity is, and also it's in an area that's wilderness. You're not supposed to have any vehicles or anything else up there. So what would you say your best evidence is to prove that these aren't hikers?
Yeah, well, when we finished off about 3:45 a.m. last night, and I reviewed the footage, and I saw the lights. At first, I thought they were hikers because you could see them actually moving in the exposures in a controlled way, an intelligent way. And there was 3 or 4 different ones, and they were moving. Then I looked at the thermal footage, and that's what totally convinced me, because I can zoom right into the very field that they were in on the mountain there, and there was actually no heat signatures, none at all.
Nothing there.
If they were people, you would at least see black from their face, the heat given off from their face. You would see around their gloves heat. You would see a gray body, and you would see black areas around their knees where the heat's coming through from their leg, and you would see things moving. And I fast forward it through the footage through the whole evening, and there's not a single thing up there. Nothing. So the light was, I would say, cold light. So the light wasn't showing up in the thermal, because this only picks up heat. But more importantly, I was looking for the bodies that the light might be attached to. And there were none.
Nothing there.
I was absolutely blown away. So to me, it's 100% evidence that it is not hikers.
Beautiful beings here, and you know, even what we call mythological elves and things like that exist within the inner earth. But you know, they had to close it off for quite some time. In the ancient times, the Native Americans have stories about they're wounded or sick, and they would bring them up to this door. They'd take them inside, and they'd come right back out completely healed. And so they have extreme healing technology. And they said they had to close off the door because this civilization, our technology was getting way ahead of our spirituality, and we were becoming too aggressive, and so they had to close it off and stop contacts with the surface. But amazing things going on there in the future. I actually see these doors opening and these technologies being shared with the rest of humanity and the whole planet being restored. The history of Mount Adams goes back to at least 500 years ago, the Native Americans have the stories about how they used to take their sick and wounded up to the mountain, and they would take them into a door, and they would be healed miraculously just in a short amount of time. And they were working with the beings on the inside of the mountain. You've got Kenneth Arnold, I believe in 1947, I think it was. He lost sight of the ships. He actually coined the word flying saucers, and he lost sight of the ships when they landed on the western slopes of Mount Adams, which is our front yard, basically. And Dr. Jalen Hynek, David Akers, Greg Long, all those people have done research up there. They've seen the ships. They've described the ships. There's a long, long history of activity on Mount Adams. It's very well documented. The forest rangers, the fire tower spotters, all of them have gone forward and talked about it. And so, again, there's a long history of activity on the mountain. And also, too, this area is also known as the home of Bigfoot. For all you Bigfoot enthusiasts, some of the most research is done in Skamania, which is on the left side of Mount Adams. And we've had a lot of Bigfoot come through here. And the Native Americans have a saying. They say, you know, if you want to go out and find Bigfoot, you'll never find him. But if Bigfoot wants to, he'll find you. So these guys are the ultimate hide-and-seek champions. You're not going to see them unless they want you to see them. And so again, if you go out there with pure intent, an open mind, and a loving heart, and you're going to have experiences. Go out and play a flute, knock on the wood, you know, do things like that. And with the right consciousness, because they're extremely sensitive, they'll know your intent. They can feel you and read you. There's different types of Bigfoot out there, but the ones that have come through here have been very, very advanced. But they're very advanced in nature, and they have the ability to phase out and shapeshift and things like that. So we've watched it. We've had them walk across the field and just disappear. We go over to where they disappeared, and there's tracks. You know, we've taken casts of the tracks. And we have a young one named Delaki here that likes to mess with people.
Yeah, this is Delaki's footprint. He's a juvenile Bigfoot, a small one that runs around the ranch quite a bit. So we took a plaster cast of his footprints.
He ran right up to Clyde Lewis, who has ground zero radio, and ran right up to him, skidded, stopped, looked at him, and smiled at him, and then took off running through the orchard. And there were several witnesses, and he left a footprint as well. This happens on a regular basis here. We think we live in harmony with them. There's no problem. We have extra apples. They can have all they want. You know, it's just a matter of again, being conscious, and you'll have your own experience. If you say, I don't believe in any of this crap, it's all crap, it is to you. You know, that's because you see with your brain, you know, experience through your brain, your mind, your eyes are picking up billions of bits of information, even other dimensions, and your brain is processing that as to what is acceptable to you. And so it's an error to say, I'll believe it when I see it. You have to be open to it. That has to be a possibility for you before you will see it. And that's just neuroscience, basically. But it's, you know, to me, the people that say, I don't believe in any of this stuff, that, you know, we still love them. We don't, but why limit yourself? It's like, you know, they're just establishing their own character and their ignorance. It has nothing to do with me or ECETI or anything else, you know, when they make these statements. And so when they start throwing daggers and darts, and I actually kind of feel sad for them in a way, but, you know, eventually everybody's going to get it. It's not optional. So if you want to know about ETs, you can actually find them in the Bible. Ezekiel, you know, a shiny disc comes out of the firmament. It has bronze feet like calves. It has fire and brimstone coming out from underneath it. When it lands, it sounds like 1,000 rushing rivers. Pretty obvious what that is. The story goes on. You can read the rest of that. But Amos and Job, they talk about the sons of Arcturus, the sweet energies of the Pleiades. You know, it's all throughout, but we don't understand what they're saying because we don't know the history. If you know the ancient history of Earth and then you read these texts, you'll find out what they're really talking about. So there were interactions, as in Ezekiel. After this ship landed, a being came out, which they referred to as God, and ordered 6 of his men with their shattering weapons to go and destroy all the men, women, and children of Israel, take out a whole city. How can 6 men take out a whole city? They must have had some pretty nasty weapons, basically. And then he orders a man dressed in all white linen to reach in the bowels of the cherubim and spread hot coals around the city. Henceforth, anybody who comes will die a hideous death. Their hair and fingernails will fall out, and there'll be food for the raven and the beast. That's radiation. So in a primitive mind, having this experience and thinking this is God, we would think this is God is wrathful. But it wasn't God. It was something else that happened there. If you go back to the Lakota prophecies, you know, they talk about that. They said there is a beast. The beast is 2,000 miles wide, which means it's going to reign for 2,000 years. The beast is all-consuming. It just wants to control and dominate and consume everything. And they said, in the last days, when you think there's no more hope, the beast actually consumes itself. And then we have the 1,000 years of peace, and we have contact with the higher dimensional beings come in, and the planet's restored. So in a nutshell, that's their prophecy. These prophecies are also within different cultures as well. The Pleiades, if you go to the Native Americans, if you go to the Hawaiians, you go to the Philippines, even Japan, they all point at the Pleiades. You know, you say, where'd you guys come from? They point at the Pleiades. So if you talk to the ancient ones that have the ancient knowledge, they all point to the Pleiades, which is the second colonization program. But there's another one before that. But anyway, in a nutshell, we really need to do the research because we've been, you know, manipulated for thousands of years, basically. We need to expand our horizons and know about the real history of Earth, and then read these texts, and you'll understand more clearly. And then you won't just be in these superstitious understandings of, and be in fear and you know, of God, basically. So, you know, I don't even like to use the word God because it's been so abused and misused on this planet. You know, I call it source, or you can call it prime creator, or you can call it, you know, whatever you want. But, you know, great spirit, there's a lot of different names for it. But I've had my own experience, and I know what it is, and it's beyond, I can't even explain it. It's beyond that, you know. So I can only explain it according to my reference points. I just have more expanded reference points right now to truly understand what's happening.
Oh my God! Back and I get all of them. They're like all 4. There's 5. Another one crossed them.
It's huge. Oh, he is. He's powering up. Whoa, look at that. Look at that. Whoa.
That's not a satellite.
Oh, no. Look at straight down on this guy as far as I can go.
That jet's moving in.
Whoa, look at that.
Huge.
Look at that thing. Oh, it doubled. There it goes. It's doubling. I got him. Check him out, man. He's going. There's the power up. Whoa! I got them both.
Oh, that power! Yeah! Whoa, that is massive, man!
You getting it, John?
Yeah, I got him. I got that all the way.
Just spilled my coffee.